Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. David Price has ground down Dave Allen, forcing him to retire on a stool after the 10th round, so Price wins this one in a fight which didn't really catch fire. It didn't really go the way that anyone expected, and David Price comes away with a win. I don't want to say a great win, even though the commentary team was billing it as a masterclass. Allen, he was never really in the fight. He was actually quite poor. He wasn't really counterpunching. He wasn't really doing much of anything. He was waiting for David Price to get off his work. It was you go, I go. And David Price behind his jab, the bigger reach, able to maintain distance, landing the cleaner work. He really just outgunned Dave Allen. And I guess for this one, David Price, he might have copped a lot of crap over the years, but he really did show that there's levels, and he was able to box comfortably. Never really looked in too much pressure, maybe about halfway through the fight, starting to breathe a little bit heavier, but not like the fights of old, where he would just wilt under pressure, just wilt under the weight of punches that were being thrown at him. In this one here, he looked more relaxed. He didn't fear what Dave Allen was doing, and he really just sort of banked round after round after round. And Adam Smith said it was a touch of a masterclass, a joy to watch. I wouldn't go nearly that far. I was disappointed this didn't catch fire. It kind of resembled a sparring session of sorts, and one that was not really a great sparring session either. Dave Allen didn't fight like the guy that we've seen in other fights, but I guess against a guy significantly taller with advantages, and we already knew that Dave Allen to some extent was limited, but this was a fight where his limitations proved out, and David Price was able to work him out early on, and for large parts of the fight just kept him completely out of it. There were times where it looked like Dave Allen could actually have some success. Price was open to being countered. Price was allowing Allen to close the distance at times, but Allen just couldn't take advantage of the openings that David Price was giving him. So Price's prediction that Allen would plod forward and he'd be able to deal with him, and he said he wanted to go 12. That was something that he wanted to prove he could do, and on the strength of what we saw, I think we would have seen David Price go 12. I don't think Dave Allen would have been stopped. Ultimately, his corner, his trainer, Darren Barker, after 10 rounds, didn't like what he saw, because effectively after about the third or the fourth round, it just devolved into the same pattern. Dave Allen would fight in little spurts, but David Price was outworking him, and for the most part was able to nullify anything that Dave Allen did. So it wasn't a great fight to watch. It didn't sort of end the way that many of us would have expected. The general predictions, including from the fighters themselves, were that they were going to end each other early, or people predicted that Dave Allen would sort of come on stronger later in the fight and take out a gassing David Price, as has been a template in many of his other fights. People thought that David Price and his best chance to win the fight was to bang out Dave Allen early on, but he proved that he is able to, at a certain level. And let's not kid ourselves, Dave Allen is not at world level, even though some of the results he's posted recently have maybe flattered to somewhat. I mean, it does make me think if that Lucas Browne fighter, where is Lucas Browne's actual level? Because I thought he was shot to pieces ahead of that fight, and it proved so, Dave Allen stopping him. But for this one here, I thought Price was shot to pieces, and I still think he's shot to pieces. I don't think he's as good as he once was, and I think he is in decline, but against a guy like Dave Allen, who proved to be limited and didn't really show Price much, he was able to comfortably handle that enough. So I think this is a bit of an evener in terms of where Dave Allen is really at. I think he's just confirmed that he is still British domestic level. David Price, maybe he's still at that level, maybe he's still fringe European, but I think we just need to keep our expectations in check about what David Price can now do in the division, but also maybe this is just going to sort of take a little bit of steam out of Dave Allen's hype train, because that had been building up. Some of the results that he got against somewhat limited opposition for the most part maybe had flattered to deceive. I think we did see a few different things from Allen in the first round or two. He was actually trying to move his head, showing feints, but some of that sort of dried up after a couple of rounds, and it was the sort of tracking forward, looking for David Price, but in this fight coming up short. So where to next for David Price and Dave Allen? Sort of hard to say, because I think it seemed like from what we were hearing that Dave Allen was in line for a much bigger fight should he have beat David Price here and looked good. There was even some talk about Alexander Povetkin that was bubbling around, but on the strength of that, even if he'd have come back and beaten Price late, if that fight had have gone ahead, I think people would have considered it a gross mismatch. Dave Allen is not ready for an Alexander Povetkin, and we've already seen David Price is not up to the task of an Alexander Povetkin. But it's hard to sort of see where Dave Allen goes from here, because obviously he'd worked through some of the lower competition to get where he needed to go. And now, what, is he just going to stagnate around fighters that are below David Price? I mean, that would sort of seem to be maybe a bit of a waste of time, but maybe that's his lot. For David Price, I think he needed that win. He did. I think he can be in some fights where we can see him in some exciting ones, but it has to be a better opponent, someone with a bit more to him than David Allen. David Price, the concerns around the chin, the gas tank, the mental fortitude, I think they are still concerns that we should still have, just not in this fight. Anyone who is at a top 30 level, top 20 level, they are going to give David Price problems, as has been shown in the past. But yeah, this one didn't catch fire. It wasn't a great fight to watch. It felt like it was at a very sedate pace. It wasn't a masterclass, I didn't think, but David Price certainly did enough to control Dave Allen and get the win. 10th round retirement from Dave Allen gives Price that win. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.